Thank you so much. We have another Kill Rationalism video. Now, this video was pretty spontaneous. I wasn't exactly planning necessarily to go over this. It just sort of appeared, and then I thought I have to do this. So what I was doing, I was checking the stats for one of my recent Substack articles, and then I just checked the homepage, refresh, and sure enough, there comes Richard Dawkins' face, and he had a new article out. And of course, Richard Dawkins is a rationalist, and I read the article and I thought this is absurd, and my subscribers will get a good laugh out of this with me. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be going over his article, which is pretty short. This shouldn't be too long. We're going to be making serious points, but we're also going to be having a little fun too. So without further ado, if you see me kind of looking away kind of oddly, I won't be looking at you. I'll be looking at my notes and the article itself because I'm just going to read the whole thing word for word. It's really not that long. Okay, so why don't we just get into it? This article was posted on April 23rd, 2025. And the article's title is called No Satisfying Alternative to Religion? Try Reality. So we're just going to take it paragraph by paragraph, and then we'll analyze each paragraph if there's something to analyze. So without further ado, let's get right into it. On April 18th, the New York Times published an article by Lauren Jackson called Americans Haven't Found a Satisfying Alternative to Religion. It's very long, but you can probably guess what she correctly lists as unsatisfying alternatives. Failed attempts to fill the void of existential insecurity, the God-shaped hole, New Age spirituality, astrology, you know the kind of thing. She was kind enough to quote me, so I offer a brief response here. Now, there's not too much in this paragraph, but let's get to the next one. He says, quote, he continues, I am sorry if there is, as she says, an epidemic of loneliness, but the remedy for loneliness is human fellowship, the warmth of real, live, flesh and blood companions and loved ones. Not prating in a vacuum to an imaginary friend for whose existence there is no vestige of serious evidence. Even an AI robot is better than that. At least ChatGPT exists, really talks back at you, will actually hold a friendly conversation. But talk to the imaginary friend, which is God, Allah, Virgin Mary, Lord Krishna, Thor, Zeus, Mithras, name yours, and the only reply you'll get is conjured within your own imagination. You'll be talking to yourself, which is really rather sad and hardly an antidote to loneliness. Okay, so let's start. So he says the epidemic of loneliness, I do agree with him. It is indeed remedied by human fellowship, but the rationalists have divided everyone into their individualist corners. They have divided and sectored everyone off into their individualist corners. So now they are a pure individual, and if they are connected to some sort of tribe, it is a political ideology that has to compete with a million other political ideologies. For example, the rationalists have divided everyone into their little individualist box. Okay? I will not hear a rationalist tell me that the remedy or the solution for the epidemic of loneliness is human fellowship, which presupposes a unity, a unification, rather than perpetual division, as you throw out that remedy and scatter it to the winds, and then you say, well, all you have to do is take the remedy. Yeah, I know. Give it to me, please. Stop. I'm about to take the remedy, and you take it from my hand every time, and you just toss it out. The perpetual division, and of course, for whatever reason you're watching this out of order, the division is inherent in rational thought. Not only does it divide the quantifiably measurable and consciously known from everything else, the division is inherent in rational numbers, the numbers we use over Arabic numerals, Greek numerals. Why do we use rational numbers? Because they can be divided. 1, 2, 3, you can do that. Or you can do 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and then of course you can go to infinity. So the people who have taken the whole, the unity, and have perpetually divided them so much to the point where now everyone's complaining about an epidemic of loneliness are going to look at you with a straight face and say, all you have to do is human fellowship and just unite. Yeah, I agree. Why don't you stop preventing or precluding us from doing that by taking everything and hair splitting and hair splitting and hair splitting to the point where we're all in our own individualist box? And we even see this in the internet. Everyone's in their own internet world. We're not even unified at anything. So that on its own was hilarious. What else? The not prating in a vacuum to an imaginary friend for whose existence there is no vestige of serious evidence. Okay. One, you will never accept any serious evidence because the tool or the mode of thought that you would use to confer validity on the evidence is deficient. That is to say, you are deploying a mode of thought that relies on what is quantifiably measurable and consciously known in an area where it is quantifiably immeasurable and consciously mostly unknown and somewhat known. No person really has true full knowledge of the spiritual other side. So imagine I'm trying to have a visual and a mental understanding of the world. Actually, we'll stick with the visual understanding of the world in its totality. Okay, so maybe we'll go up in our little rockets and we'll go up in our satellites and we'll say, okay, we'll do the bird's eye view, and we'll capture the image of the Earth in its totality, at least in circumference and stuff like that. I say, okay, let me do that, and I get the Hubble telescope. That's great. Richard Dawkins would do the same thing, except the tool he would use is a microscope. So he would use a microscope, and he would say, yeah, look, there's no evidence for the claims you're making about the totality of the world. Look, see, look through the microscope. And then I just sort of very kind of playfully just say, well, that's a microscope. It's a limited tool in this domain of inquiry. So how about you come over here with the Hubble telescope, and then I can really blow your mind. And then Richard Dawkins says, no, I will stick with the microscope. And not only that, I will insist that what could ever be considered true underneath this microscope is exclusively true. That is absurd. That is laughable. And I will make fun of you. And I'm going to try really hard to refrain from my normal snarky self because I don't want to appear arrogant. But you have to understand from our perspective, from the A-rational, it's a little laughable for him to say there's no vestige of evidence. Yeah, I guess that's true if you're using a deficient mode of thought in this area of life. What else? And then, so, okay, and that explains this big dicking and this blustering about the imaginary friend, this devaluing of the imaginary friend, the God to the imaginary. You're just talking to your friend like you did when you were 4 years old. It's absurd. From our perspective, really is the child putting on daddy's work outfit and then going out and pretending, well, I make all the big bucks, so I get to tell. Like, no, you are the little one here, and you are talking mad crap to the big ones, and you don't want to do that because it's absurd. So all this talk about what to say, name yours, Thor, Zeus, and all you get is your imagination. No, it's absurd. So here's another thing. This talking to yourself, talking to the imaginary friend. To be clear, at worst, this is soul searching. Now, he wouldn't even believe in the soul. So let's be rationalist for a second. It's psyche searching. We know it's the soul. It is not just the psyche. That's maybe the measurable aspects, but the soul is real. So he's soul searching, and this soul searching will confer infinitely more meaning than your logical proofs. Okay, and that's at the worst case scenario. That's the absolute worst case scenario. It's still infinitely better than what you have. The worst case scenario. At best, you have no idea. He might actually be talking to a spirit on the other side or whatever it is. I don't know. You have no idea, and you would never accept it because if he did have that sort of unfathomable experience and he went up to you and he said, Richard, I had a mystic experience. I talked to my dead father. I was there. I was more certain of it than anything in this sort of terrestrial world. He would immediately cast you aside and said, no, you're crazy. That was a psychological experience. And that's absurd. What gives him the confidence, someone with no knowledge, interest, or experience in your mystic experience, to dismiss what happened to you in that experience? Rationalism. It doesn't comport with rational thought, so therefore it must by definition not be true. It is laughable. So let's continue. Let's see. He says, I feel I should, there we go. I feel I should qualify, even apologize for, the optimistic tone of what follows. Americans might feel anything but cheerful just at present. Of course, I acknowledge this and sympathize, but it has nothing to do with the eternal cosmic angst that religion aspires to assuage, and which prompted Lauren Jackson's search for alternatives. Moreover, I don't want to downplay the anguish of the search, nor the epidemic of loneliness that she discerns, and I regret that I was a little facetious when she interviewed me on the telephone. My humorous frivolity went so far as to recommend my humorous frivolity went so far as to recommend golf as an alternative. And for this I apologize. I'm better at writing than speaking, so let me now tried to express more seriously what I should have said to her. She began with a remorseful testament of her own loss of faith. So forgive me if I too bare my soul when I offer my personal, non-religious alternative to religion. Now, let's be a little fair here, okay? Um, the comment about golf, that is funny. We don't have to sacrifice our sense of honesty or humor. That would be hilarious if it's New York Times that, what do you think is a viable alternative for the complete nihilism and destruction that's been left in the wake of the collapse of religion? Have you ever tried golf? Have you ever seen the movie Whiplash? Have you ever? I had some really good queso dip from a local Mexican restaurant, and it was actually really good. Have you ever tried that? Like, come on, it's a little funny. That is pretty funny. It says, okay, she began with a remorseful testament of her own loss of faith. So forgive me if I too bare my soul when I offer my personal, non-religious alternative to religion. This next line is exactly when I knew I was going to make this video, okay? Listen to this next line. Quote, there is joy in understanding, italics understanding. True joy, rising to little short of ecstasy. I suppose you could call it the poetry of reality. That's the name of his Substack here, Poetry of Reality. Peter Atkins, he continues, concludes his lovely little book, The Creation, with a vision of the limitless future of science. Complete knowledge is just within our grasp. Comprehension is moving across the face of the earth like the sunrise. There is joy in understanding, and he put it in italics. With this is his alternative to the collapse of meaning and the ensuing negative manifestations and expressions of that collapse and that anxiety and that nihilism. This is unironically his solution. Rationally understand things, put things in a logical proof and understand them. That is his. It's like beyond parody. It's beyond parody. Hey, all this obsession with rational understanding, which has extracted any meaning out of what is being considered, because the meaning in a real effectual serious sense is conferred by irrationality, so myth or some sort of poetic interpretation. That's leading us into a really nihilism, this rationally understanding things, and yes, conferring knowledge, but at the cost of meaning and purpose and all this great stuff that we need. Okay, it's immeasurable, but it's even more important than your rational knowledge. So that's leaving us. That's driving us off the cliff. What is your solution to that? How are you going to stop these tires? Oh, have you ever considered just rationally understanding things? It's genuinely beyond parody. It is beyond parody. I'm trying not to be mean, but my lord, and he makes the same mistake later. And of course, the great irony is the more he pushes down on this rationalism, the less he views them, rationality and irrationality, as polar complements, the yin and the yang. And the more he says, no, just keep doing more rationalism, the worse things are going to get for him. The more people are going to run towards deficient, negative, irrational systems or whatever that confer meaning, because that irrational meaning is simply better than your rational nihilism. It's beyond parody. And then this quote at the end where he says, talk about encapsulating or capturing the arrogance of the rationalist in one line. Let me read this line again, okay? Complete knowledge is just within our grasp. No, no. By definition, your limited mode of thought, that which is limited to what is quantifiably measurable and consciously known, that which can only produce limited results from mostly deduction, as we pointed out in my video about the connection between perspectivity and rationality. Remember, Socrates and man breathes, all men breathe. Socrates drowned, Socrates is a man, all men drown. No, it was efficient when we deduced a particular from the general, not build from the particular to the general. So no, by definition, you do not have everything, complete knowledge within your grasp. You have sectored off and divided and ignored exactly that which would prevent you from making a statement like this, because you are not integrating the quantifiably measurable and consciously unknown, the quantifiably immeasurable and consciously known, and the quantifiably immeasurable and consciously unknown, or even just qualitative valuations, or any sort of spiritual knowledge. Get out of here. That was a joke. I remember laughing quite hard when I read that. Um, Oh, there's some more problems too. Notice the psyche has wormed its way back in here. Okay, in abstract theory, apparently people can get by just fine with exclusively rational knowledge. Okay, in the abstract theory, if we're not incorporating elements of the external world, that is to say, nature and human nature, that can be given to us through experience, through empirical knowledge, not necessarily through abstract theory, and certainly not abstract theory completely detached from the external world and the trade-offs and limitation it opposes. Um, so what's happened here? So let's say Richard Dawkins says, I think that people could survive on purely rational knowledge, and we can completely get by just ignoring all the irrational, the quantifiably immeasurable stuff. All that can go. Um, okay, I'll say I don't think we can. I don't think humans can survive with only that. We're in the abstract right here. We're getting a little lost. What? Who's right here? No one is right because we have a different interpretation. We've gotten so lost in the abstract, theoretical, conceptual space, and we've detached ourselves so uh, thoroughly from the considerations of the external empirical world out there that, in theory, what we think we're doing is measuring out objective truth conferred by rational thought. But we just agreed on the definitions and the logic here, and we have completely different interpretations. I believe that man cannot survive on purely rational knowledge alone. He believes men can. What is the cause of this difference in interpretation? The psyche. Why does Richard Dawkins interpret it the way he does? Because he is a rationalist, so his psyche is biased towards favoring rationality. I am an a-rationalist, someone who is going for integral consciousness. So my psyche is going to um, cause that different interpretation in the other way. Okay, great example of getting so lost in the abstract theory and divorcing yourself from the world, the thing out there, and not just in here. Um, And then the psyche worms its way back in. And the great irony is Richard Dawkins can never see it because he's so lost in his rational, ironically, psychological cave that he's created for himself that he simply cannot fathom how anyone could disagree. Because he thinks, in going so farther and farther and farther in the abstract, he has attained objective knowledge truth. No, no, the psyche has wormed its way with all its emotions, instincts, subjective qualities. So, no, that is ridiculous. Let's get into it some more. What else? Also, by the way, my reason for believing that humans cannot survive on purely rational means alone is not just abstract theory, it's out here. So, history and human nature as I see it in the world very obviously signals to me that this is not possible. If you can name me a single civilization that has come from atheist philosophical foundations, every single high civilization, Magian, Jewish, Islamic, Russian, Chinese, Aztec, the Western, of course, Roman, Sumerian, all emerge from a preceding religion, transcendent deities. Not only that, when they make the turn towards materialist rational atheism, they all completely fall apart, as Oswald Spengler has shown us in his Decline of the West. If you disagree with that, take it up with him. So I'm not appealing to just purely abstract theory, right? I'm integrating the world as I see it, and whether I like it or not, that people will drive themselves to violence if they cannot find that meaning, because they've been precluded from it because they're not allowed to be irrational. Sorry, sounds like we should probably healthily channel these things rather than building our enemy that will destroy us. How about that, Richard? Is that smart enough for you? Okay, you tumble into existence. Quote, you tumble into existence, open your eyes, come to consciousness, find yourself on a spinning sphere orbiting a nuclear furnace in one arm of a barred spiral galaxy, hurtling through space-time alongside 300 billion galaxies. The fact that you exist at all is a piece of shattering good fortune. Not only did your parents chance to meet, not only did one particular sperm outrun 100 million rivals, the same massive luck attended every generation of your ancestors, back to a single Devonian fish and a greater distance beyond. Any slight deviation in what happened anywhere, anytime, would have sufficed to throw your future existence off the conveyor belt of lucky contingencies. You certainly owe your existence to Julius Caesar, Napoleon, even Hitler, but less obviously to a humble peasant who didn't sneeze at a crucial moment in some forgotten marital bed. You owe your life to a particular dinosaur on a particular Jurassic day who stumbled and failed to catch the ancestor of all the mammals. You are prodigiously lucky to be alive, so please stifle your entitled moaning. Revel in your own existence. Okay, so this is what the rationalists have deemed it acceptable for us to derive meaning from. What is that? Science and chance, scientific chance, where we can only derive meaning apparently from science, math, and a brutally cold rational analysis. This is rationalism. Nothing that he just said is anything even approximating the profundity of a true spiritual enlightenment or experience. It is a joke, okay? We are all aware of these facts. We are all aware of this, and yet people still have an epidemic of loneliness. People are still depressed. People are still shooting up schools because they feel on the outer edges of society because they've been so separated and divided from society that they become resentful, and now they're going to take it out on them. It's absurd, and at the same time, man, I could, if I was a romantic, and that's what I've been trying to do in killing rationalism. I'm trying to open up the romance in me, but keep it at that healthy, moderated, balanced, irrational, rational, right? I could not imagine anything less captivating or anything less affecting. Hey, everyone, Hitler is more responsible for you being alive than the spirit world. Gee, I wonder why people are very feeling a little spiritually detached. I wonder why. He's presupposing that everyone likes science like he does, and everyone's a rationalist like he is. Of course, they are not. We are human beings, not just the personification of the laws of logic. We have aspects of the human condition that are more powerful and potent and need to be respected, and those confer meaning. To derive meaning from a Holderlin poem is not to take what he says and put it through a logical proof. That would be absurd. I mean, nothing that he says in that paragraph touches the soul. You would mock that idea. You would tell me to put it on the table. And then you would seriously walk around like you were the smart one. It's absurd. I mean, it's laughable on its face. It's cool, I guess, but it doesn't touch the soul. And my evidence of this is that people know this and they still feel detached and nihilistic. It's just laughable. I mean, you owe your life to a particular dinosaur. I mean, my goodness. But take the dinosaur line. You owe your life to a particular dinosaur. What's happened here? We've reduced human ontology and what we are to what is quantifiably measurable and consciously known. That is to say, you are with a straight face supposed to derive meaning from the fact that you are just as basic and as inconsequential and as useless as any other common mammal or animal in this world. And they, with a straight face, they want you to be like, yeah, why is that not enough? Why is that not enough? I don't understand. It's just like, oh my god. Yeah, it's like I said in my notes. The worst Holderlin poem that you could think of imbues more meaning than anything here. The worst stanza from Holderlin or Goethe or Eliot imbues more meaning than any of this crap. It's nonsense. It's... Okay, let's continue. Not just your existence, but the existence of others to share your world and sweeten your time in it. Fellow voyagers to smile at you, laugh with you, hold your hand along the pilgrim's way through your personal slice of time. Okay, I know I said I was going to wait until the end. So, two, I agree. Having people smile at you, laugh with you, and be good to you is good. They're not going to do that if you keep dividing them into their individualist nonsense. If you keep saying no, you are not allowed to follow any sort of collective drives in you. That's number one. Number two, hold your hand along the pilgrim's way through your personal slice of time. Talk about a complete degradation of time. Time is a quantifiably immeasurable dynamic energy that is constantly, that manifests in different forms and affects our ability to act in a spatialized world. It is not a slice, aka a divided spatialized segment or object. this is why I decided to do this. It's just like it's parody. It's parody. It is parody. Okay. All right, let's continue. You and I are privileged not only to be alive, but to inhabit the 21st century when so much is already understood. We who live after Newton, Darwin, Maxwell, Einstein, and their legions of clever but lesser known followers, we are blessed with the opportunity to know so much. Wow, what a blessing. But also to know what we do not know, and so experience the joy of curiosity, of constructive wonder, the buccaneering adventure of the restless mind. One, if understanding and the pursuit of understanding is what we're supposed to be aiming at, why should I be thankful for Einstein and Newton and all these guys for actually doing the understanding? Isn't that my job to do that? Isn't that what's going to confer meaning? Two, someone has not read Faust, my friend, because what's the line? When so much is already understood. So, in limiting the human condition to the abstract theory and rationally, which is the domain in which rational understanding is conferred, you are Faust from the book Faust. What does Faust do? Faust is it's like Gebser's knowledge squared, or to the third power or something. He just is infinitely knowledgeable and infinitely intelligent about all the world, and he spends his entire life learning about the world. And what happens? It leaves him in such a nihilistic despair because he has limited himself to one very small and not powerful or potent aspect of the human condition that can never confer the prerequisite necessary meaning that we need to function and to make life feel worth living. What does he do? He's so nihilistic and despairing because of all this rational knowledge at the direct expense of the other aspects of the human condition that he makes a deal with the devil. This is where that comes from, the deal with the devil. He makes a deal with Mephistopheles. He says, give me whatever I want. It's just money, girls, all of it. And if I ever say, you know what? Moment, you are so fair, stay, moment, stay. You are so fair, you can take everything. That is to say, if I ever just sort of irrationally appreciate or have an insight into the world through experience, which is not what rationality does, yeah, you can take all this because he's he's reduced the world of all meaning in trying to understand it rationally. It divorces meaning, so it's pretty funny. Let's see. The Buccaneering Adventures of the Restless Mind. Did I? Okay. Who needs New Age spirituality? Parentheses. Sound baths, energy healing, astrology. Who needs to thumbsuck under a mental comfort blanket? Who needs God when reality is there for the taking? So reality was so insufficient, so torturous and nihilistic, that one of religion's main purposes, as I explained in the last Kill Rationalism video at the very end, was to protect us from it. That is to say, the tragedies of the real. Death of children, maybe in childbirth, natural disasters, Katrina wipes away entire cities, murders, assaults on women and children, genocide, deathly sickly disease, leprosy, stuff like that. That was one of the main functions of religion. So now you've deconstructed the protective shield of reality, and we say, okay, well, you must have something better, right? You must have something even more protective. And your solution to that is reality. That's the whole reason we have religion, okay? Or at least it's one of the huge reasons, okay? Don't tell me that the problem is the solution. Don't tell me that your solution for the problem is more of the problem. It is absurd. It is laughable. It portrays a profound misunderstanding of what religion is, why it's here, its potential uses, and it's a complete misjudgment of what human nature is. Richard Dawkins sincerely believes that history only really started in the pre-perspectival phase and the perspectival phase. Everything leading up to it was just an irrational ball and chain that we have to carry. It's just so absurd. It's just laughable. Okay, so he says, you don't need any of that. You don't need any of the spirituality stuff. You need reality. Why does he believe what he believes? Simply put, he has limited himself to the exclusive domain of abstract theory. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. He's a rationalist. He does not integrate the out there into his countenance because the limitations and trade-offs imposed by the out there would mess up his neat little world that he's created in theory. He has a perfect little model of reality, and he has been tricked into thinking it's perfectly consistent and logical because he has sectored off only what is quantifiably measurable and consciously known. So everything that would mess up his little model of reality in his head in here, he just ignores because it's quantifiably immeasurable or whatever. So he's limited, just like rationality is inherently limited. He is not integrating the out there, the external world as it is, whether we like it or not. So when I look at history, and as I mentioned earlier, with the civilizations coming into being out of a preceding religion or some sort of spiritual something, myth and spirituality and symbol was in there, my friend. Rational thought is not conducive to any of this. And then when they make that turn to atheists, everything goes up in a bad way. He's not incorporating that in there because he's lost in here. He's only working with a model of reality in the same way that an engineer is building a bridge. He's not really engaging directly with the bridge. That's the construction workers. They are the ones engaging directly with reality, right? He has established distance or space, and then he has retreated to the abstract conceptual world to create a model of the bridge. So he, knowing that he does not have the consciousness of a bridge, these abstract models can help us achieve a greater insight into how bridges work. When used efficiently, we get safe bridges that are useful and are safe. Great. When taken too far, you completely detach yourself from the real world. So what you have done is, in your little world of abstract theory, you think everyone's like you, just the personification of the laws of logic. No. In modern day, we can see the rise of the far left, the rise of the far right. We can see all this irrational nonsense. In history, it is the most consistent lesson out there that we are not just rational. We have irrational, pre-rational, and even irrational aspects to us. None of that gets incorporated because all that's out there. All that is, it doesn't fit in your little mental model. It messes up my little mental model. And instead of incorporating sense data from the external world and having that data in turn directly create and affect your theories, and then once you have your models and theories, you externalize them, get new data, and then the process cycles again. There's a symbiotic 2D flat circle relationship here. No, you said theory in here, external world out there. These are dualistic antithesis. I will privilege one or the other. The whole is greater than the part is less than the whole. Those statements are true no matter where I go. Therefore, that world of abstract theory is superior, and now we privilege. You have failed to view these as polar complements, and now we get this absurdity, this laughable nonsense. Let's see. And why is it ultimately true that people can live as the way that Richard Dawkins described them? Because it makes him feel good. Because his psyche has wormed his way back and said, yeah, this conforms to our biases, and we're rationalists, so of course they can do that. So that was a very short article. This was actually longer than I thought it was going to be. I hope you had a little fun. If you guys see articles, I saw one from Alex O'Connor about how he doesn't want music playing anywhere. Why does he not want music playing anywhere? Because that's noise, figuratively and literally, of course. And noise is not conducive to the still, static world of mental, rational thought. He is lost. He is trying to restrain everyone to the deficient rationalist mode. That's why he doesn't like music. He wants everything silent and still, not noisy and in flux and in movement. He has not incorporated time into his countenance. I won't make that mistake. So this was fun, beating up on Richard Dawkins. I think he's a borderline joke. Now, I will say, he's a joke when it comes to like this stuff. When it comes to biology, I would never challenge him. He could come out and say the craziest things. And I'd just be like, all right, you're the authority here. I don't know anything about biology. So I would never challenge him on biology. That's crazy. But when it comes to this, it's just so bad. It's so... All right, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I love you guys. You guys are the best. I hope you guys are thriving, and I will see you soon with either a new video going through my Blu-rays or a new Gemster, whatever comes first. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.